Welcome, everyone, to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, brought to you by ugozi.com. Did I go high enough on that, Larry? I'm not
A little higher.
All right. Well, in this podcast and HireMyVA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, and that means your bank. And I'm Dave Braun, and I'm here with, I think I've already introduced him a little bit, Larry. Larry Braun, my great friend, partner, mentor, all things amazing. Larry, what's up?
Hello, handsome Dave. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great right now, for sure.
Right
Better now.
Yeah, good. I'm glad we're doing this today. For those who are joining us here, man, the last few days has just been we've had to kick the can down the road on this and reschedule this a couple of times. You know, just life is happening. You know,
life, and we've realized a few of our limits, haven't we, sir?
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, we'll talk about that in this podcast.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, we are coming to the very end of 2021. By the time
when we're recording
this, when we're recording this, you'll be hearing it in early 2022. So we thought, well, let's answer the question similar to what we did last year. What are the top lessons you learned in 2021?
Yeah, that one that we did for 2020, which is a recap of 2020, like lessons we learned in 2020 that we wanted to kind of analyze and help us get into 2021, was one of those podcasts, Dave. I think we got more feedback and input and traction on that one than any other, which was really surprising. I'm glad. I think it was Brian who pointed that out to us, one of our VAs.
Yep, one of our VAs. Yep, got to get a VA.
That's right. That's right. So thank you, Brian, for catching that. And I went back and watched it and said, like, why? It was really good. And even if, it might be fun for somebody to just go back and look at that. What I realized is it's pretty timeless, the stuff that we talked about in there. And so I may be repeating some of that stuff because I know that we've got a lot of new listeners and viewers this year that we didn't have last year. Thank you, folks, for the DMs and the messages. We appreciate it. And the text that I get from a few people saying that, that particular podcast was powerful. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to encourage you as we go along on this, if there are things that, there's lessons that you learned in 2021 that you want to share, or goals you have in 2022 that you want to share, throw them out there. We'd love to hear them. We all learn from each other. Life is a journey. That's one of the things we kept talking about in the one that we did a year ago, Dave, is about the importance of community, doing this journey together, not isolating, right? And I think it applies as much today as it did 2,000 years ago.
Absolutely. So, and looking back is such a great way to remember, to learn, and to reinforce lessons, because sometimes what happens is if we don't learn the lesson the first time, it will be repeated for us over and over and over again.
Well, that's what they say, right? History repeats itself, right?
Yeah. And
but here's the thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I keep stepping on you. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Go ahead.
Well, what I was just going to say is no effective goal setting can be done without glancing in the rearview mirror. That doesn't mean you live there. There's all kinds of adages and sayings and analogies about, looking through the windshield, not in the rear view mirror. There's a reason why the windshield is bigger. There's all kinds of things like that. There's a reason you have eyes in the front of your head, not in the back of your head. Yeah. Okay. We get all that kind of stuff. Right. But it is true. Right.
You just reminded me of a story.
Okay.
You just reminded me of a story related to that.
All right. One thing though, and that is this, they say that two things steal your joy, right? Comparing yourself to others and living in the past. Yeah. And that is very powerful for me, right? So, but in order to set goals for 2022, we are going to have to glance in the rearview mirror and say, okay, what did we do right and what did we do wrong, and how are we going to improve the next time, right? What is that? An AAR. There's three little questions. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And how can we improve the next time? So, Dave, let's hear your story before we jump into our little.
Yeah, stop me if you've heard it. Once you start getting 60, you start losing all of that. But there was a guy at church years ago. He told us a story about how he was driving pretty fast down the road, and then all of a sudden the cop came in and came up to the side of him and said, "Pull over." And then they pulled over, and the cop said, "Didn't you see me? I mean, had my lights on for miles." And our friend at church said, The cop said, didn't you see me in my your rear view mirror? And that guy said, well, I'm not going that way. Why should I look that way? Why should I look there? I'm not going there. Why should I look? So I think, but that's, and that's what happened to him. He got a nice big fat ticket by not looking in his rear view mirror occasionally.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. So I think Dave, maybe using the format that we did last year a little bit might help us to formulate or format the podcast this year.
Yeah.
By introducing the whole health spider graph. I know some of the folks who follow this podcast are in our Victory Masterclass program, or they're in one of the coaching programs, or they're in the HireMyVA program. They've seen this before. But I know that a lot of people aren't and haven't, and they've never seen the whole health spider graph before. So for those who have seen this before, bear with us. It's going to be a very quick overview. For those who have not seen this before, you can actually get a copy of this if you're in one of our programs.
Yes.
And by the way, I just saw Dave, another person. Do you remember when we had that coaching client who took the whole health spider graph and basically just turned it to pink and said, this is mine, and we found out about it?
Yep.
Guys, do us a solid. This stuff's copyrighted. Don't make us come after you, okay? But we just found we found another one the other day that's actually somebody's trying to sell it online, and it's this almost the same exact thing. They just changed a couple of the titles on the heading. So I'm going to share my screen here. Do yourself a solid. Live with integrity, for crying out loud. Life's a whole lot easier. Just give attribution where attribution is warranted. Okay. All right. We are big believers in goal setting. And I'll be honest with you, Dave and I, we change just like everybody does. I don't know where it ever started that if you changed your mind about something, you were a flip-flopper. In the political arena is where it got really big. But the truth is, if you change the way you do things, you change your approach, you change the way you think about things, it's oftentimes because you're growing, you're learning what's worked, what hasn't worked. Well, in the past, Dave and I used to be really big on setting 12-month goals. And we still think you need to have a North Star. You need to have a vision. You need to have a mission and a calling in your life. But this was done several years ago. In fact, I can tell you it's on January 15th. That's when this thing was started by a guy named Bill Radson. But this is our whole health spider graph. And now what we really try to get people to focus on is 12-week goals and then micro goals to support those goals, because sometimes you just need the momentum. What we found over the years, Dave, is that if people set a 12-month goal, they may not even start busting tail on that goal for 11 months, until the deadline is 12 months out, right? So anyway, what we have found over the years from just personal experience and dealing with lots of coaching clients is that if you focus on just one area of your life, like I did, let's say 15 years ago, and I was all about growing my business and surviving recessions and those types of things. And I didn't try to measure or improve other areas of my life, then I might be a rock star professionally, but I leave my family in the dust, which I did. I might leave my friends in the dust. I might not be taking care of myself physically, right? And so the idea here is that what's measured is improved. What's measured is improved. And over the years, you and I have found, Dave, that there are really 8 primary areas in our life that if we can get those under control and find some healthy balance, and that balance is not the right word, set some healthy boundaries up around those 8 areas of our life, then we tend to lead a more resilient, joyful, harmonious, growth-filled life, right? If I just focused on that, I wanted to be a freaking gym monster, and I wanted to be 300 pounds with a 6% body fat, and I was just in the gym every day, and all I focused on was my eating, but I wasn't trying to pay the bills, or I didn't care what my, relationships were like. I was going to be a very lonely Hulk, and that's no fun. So the areas that we found were really most important, Dave, are the areas of physical, financial, professional, leisure and fun, mental health, spiritual health, family health, and friends health. Okay. And those were the areas. And so what we identified is, for most people, is that if you do this over 4 periods, maybe it's 4 months in a row, maybe it's over 4 quarters, we give you 4 opportunities here. And you put in SMART goals here under each category. So here for Bill, and the first time he did this was January 5th. Oh, so he did this every 2 months, it looks like. He did it in January, March, June, and December. So it wasn't even, it was kind of sporadic, right? But over the period of 2015, he did this thing. And so he said, under physical health, my blood pressure is 120/80. My ideal body weight is 196 pounds by 12/31/2015. What do you notice about that SMART goal, Dave? It's written in the affirmative, right? It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relatable, and it's time sensitive, right? He said financial and free of credit card debt, professional, I've completed my executive program, hired a mentor. Under leisure and fun, he's taken 6 days off a month. Under mental, start a morning routine, blah, 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 right? Spiritual, read meditation book in the morning routine, do my to-do list each night. Under family, attend 50% of my kids' events, send monthly cards to Kim. I don't remember what that was about. And friends, but that might have been his significant other. Friends, call 1 friend a week to chat, 2 coffee dates a month. And so he just measured this, right? So let's look down at how did he do? December 20. His blood pressure was 122/80 and he weighed 198 pounds. Slacker, he missed his goal of 196. Okay. All right. Financial, his credit card debt was $2,600 and he had a savings of $19,800. And I do remember this now. Okay. He had $25,000 in credit card debt earlier in the year. I would consider that a win, right? He graduated the executive program. Mentoring is flat, it looks like. Reconsider finding a new mentor. Okay, good. Leisure and fun, have not been working weekends since vacation. So that's the idea. You measure this, right? And as you plot this out, Dave, we have what we call markers on this so that you take the emotional element out of this. I'm spending more time on this than I wanted to. But we do have, this is an electronic form that we have. And we help you then identify what these numbers are here. Because you rate yourself from a 0 to a 10. The idea is to get all of these out towards the 10 range. If everything out here were 10, we would call that nirvana, right? But you can see here, like on this blue one, for instance, Bill's family life on the blue one, which is in January of 2015, was out here, it looks like, what was his home
Is
life?
it at 8?
At 8, right?
Yeah.
But his professional life was down here in a 3, right? Okay, but by December 15th, look, lots of 8s and 7s. Okay, he's way out here. That's a lot of growth. What's measured is improved. So what we did last year, Dave, on this podcast is we went through each of these different spans and we just talked about, here's the lessons I learned.
Okay.
And we would do it this year for 2021. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything we want to change for 2022. That's just an idea. We can use that same format if you want, or we can
let's
ramble.
Do that. And
okay,
I think we're going to turn this into a 2-parter.
You think so, huh?
Yeah.
After that long intro already. I'm sorry, my friends. I know some of you just like to listen to my sultry voice, but
oh, Larry, I'm Twitter pated.
You're so dreamy.
Okay.
All right.
So let's go get into it.
All right, let's go. Let's start with physical, Dave. What have you learned what are the lessons you learned in 2021, Dave, about physical? And is there anything you want to change about 2022?
Well, from a physical perspective, I normally will change stuff pretty quickly because, and we're going to talk about this in some upcoming episodes about habits. Being healthy physically is a foundation of so many things, because if you don't have the energy, if you're constantly in pain, if you just don't feel good, it's hard to bring your best to any situation that you're trying to, exceed in. And I'm sorry, folks, there's so much competition in this world. We've got to be at our best physically. Right, Larry?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we got to be at our best. So it's always been pretty easy for me. And I'm lucky. I really feel fortunate that the physical part is enjoyable for me. But so I guess for me is, I think it was about 6 years ago, I had a disc in my neck that bulged so much I had to have surgery, and I had to have fusion. And you remember that?
I
Oh my
do.
gosh, pain all the time. It inhibited my exercise and all that kind of stuff. But took care of it, was feeling great. Well, then guess what happened this year on another disc? I got a bulge. Well, one of the things that I did this time is I recognized that it was happening. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to back off on all my workouts right now. And then what I'm going to do is, I got the MRI and all that kind of stuff. And it was a pretty big bulge. But what I did is I said, let me adjust my exercise routine. I've done exercise for years, all kinds of different yoga routines. I'm going to create my own to where it's less stress on my neck, right? So I'm doing a lot of inversion stuff and that and a bunch of prayer. And it's kind of, I'm not in pain anymore. It kind of healed up, surprisingly so. So I'm not in pain, but I'm very careful. So that's one of the things that I learned is that, I turned 60 this year. I think the weights are done. So I'm using a lot of resistance bands and doing some things at home that are a little bit lighter. Like I fill some water bottles up with and use those as weights, but I'm keeping it a lot lighter.
Yeah. That's very
so
good.
That's one of the things that I learned physically is that you just gotta, get rid of the ego and stop trying to be like you were when you're 20 years old. Because I would always tell everybody, they ask me how old I am and I'd say 29. They're like, what? You're kidding me. No, because I go to the gym and I enter my age in the elliptical and I put in 29 and it says, okay, let's go. So the machine recognizes it. Machines don't lie. So I'm 29.
Machines don't lie. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, so I was kind of fooling myself a little bit. So that's one of the things that I learned is to embrace my limitations and live within them.
Well, when you told me that you were not going to be doing the surgery on this one, I just got to be honest with you. I was a little disappointed. I was so looking forward to hearing that Batman voice.
Yeah.
Folks, they did the surgery through the front of his neck. And so that it strained his vocal cords. And so he talked like Batman for a few weeks.
Little scar right there. Little scar.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well, the lesson I really learned this last year, and really most recently, and I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming because I've not been taking care of myself health-wise. The saying is health is wealth, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think I've had to do some real reflection on my pain threshold. I had a doctor who kind of scolded me, as you know, Dave, last week after I finally went in, and talked to a doctor where I was having pain for a long time. And I thought it was a 6. And he said, dude, if this were anybody else, they'd be a 9 or a 10. You need to recalibrate your pain scale. And because if you don't, then something serious is going to happen. And you're going to think it's a little twinge, but it's really going to be a heart attack or a stroke or whatever it is. I'm fine, folks. We're going to deal with it here pretty soon. But as it turned out, what I thought was one thing happened to be 3 kind of different things that need to be fixed in my body. So anyway, health as well. Take care of yourself. Listen to your body. Don't use excuses that I'm too busy or whatever it is. Because truly, if you don't have your physical health, this meat suit that we're wearing out there, we're not going to be able to serve our families, our clients, our communities. We just are not going to be able to. And it's more joyful. I can tell you, I have lived through years and seasons with pain, and I've had, occasional seasons without pain. And it is much more of a joy. We're more creative. We're more upbeat. We're more patient when we're not living in pain and discomfort. And I've got friends who are on all spectrums of the health continuum, right? I have folks like you, Dave, who would be considered, very fit for their age, for any age group, right? And I've got other folks who are morbidly obese. And just the movement sometimes, your heart may be in good shape, but just the physical movement if you're too overweight. I can tell when I get over 250 nowadays, like I used to be when I was working out, at 250 with a low body fat, that was much different than working out or walking around at 250 with a high body fat. My joints hurt more and I'm just not, the carriage isn't being carried properly. But anyway, so take care of your body. So my goal is to drop some weight. I'm not telling you guys a smart goal. I'm just talking right now. I'm going to drop some weight in early 2022, get these health issues dealt with. And I plan on living for another at least 40 very constructive years. And I'm not going to do that if I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah, one of the things that was occurring to me too is that as high achievers, whether or not it kind of affects men more than women, but affects everybody who's a high achiever. Sometimes we look at going to the doctor as, oh God, that's an hour out of my day or 2 hours out of my day. And so I'm going to push this off. Folks, doctors are your friends. They are your friends. They are meant to help you and heal you. But Larry, I say this as a reminder to myself too. I have to recognize that. One of the things that we teach in our program is about multiplying your time, how you can multiply your time. The idea behind that is to work at things today that will give you more time tomorrow. The physical area is one of those things. Keeping yourself healthy, taking that hour or 2 hours, getting that pain moved away, gives you some resiliency and buffering that you need for being on this high achievement journey that we're on.
The reason I'm grimacing here is if you are in the medical arena, that is an opportunity for you, right? If you if you have an appointment at 6:30 p.m., I hope that you are listening, my doctor. If you have an appointment at 6:30 p.m. because you specifically ask, hey, when's a good time I can get in there so they don't have to wait an hour, but you still go and you wait 2 hours before you even see the doctor, and then you're sent to the emergency room, and it ends up being an overnight visit. You're right, Dave, because the medical arena does have that reputation that I'm not going to get in and get out, right? And so that is indeed why I kept postponing. It's like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. And sure enough, I didn't have time for it, but I had to make time for it. So had I not dealt with it though, then it would have been probably actually, instead of just being overnight in the hospital, actually admitted, and it would have been much worse. So you're right. You do need to do it, but let's take care of your carriage, the thing that you're walking around in. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's another lesson that I realized I learned. I think I'm going to put that into the mental area though, but it's related to the physical once we get to that.
Okay, good. All right, let's talk about financial, Dave. Any lessons you learned on the financial side this year that might be different that you're going to try in 2022?
Yeah, one of the things is that I'll be honest. The way I look at some of my financial stuff is there's I had a mini MBA class and course. There's several courses. It was like a semester with my company years and years ago, and they talked about managerial accounting and financial accounting. Right? The managerial is where you do whatever numbers you need to do to make the good decisions in your business. The financial is the asset statement, income statement, balance sheet, all that stuff. Right? Well, the managerial accounting has been kind of fun. And so that's what I've done well. The other part is I have not done well in my business for a while. So that's one of the lessons that I realized, and that if I'm going to create the business that I want to really have, I've got to get that straightened out. So that's going to be changing, having a bookkeeper this coming year in some way or form, that then we're doing things right.
Good. Yeah, I'm surprised, Dave, at how many small businesses do not have active bookkeepers keeping track of their monthly financial statements. For me, 2021 was a good learning year, and it's even more amplified than what I talked about in 2020. And that is, I think a lot of people know who are following my hotel company. We were a large hotel company, and we really shrunk down because the hospitality industry has just been decimated with the pandemic and the continual shutdowns and those types of things. And so we are much smaller. than we used to be. And what I realized is that revenue was covering a lot of our inefficiencies on the financial and accounting side. And I used to brag about how good our financial services department was. And we were much better than most, for sure. No doubt about it. But it could be so much better. So I was just talking to my home office team this morning or yesterday morning about how this is an opportunity, because we're about to go into this growth phase. I thought we were going to be going into this growth phase last year, but we were shut down again, right? But now we're so close, Dave, as you know, on this relaunch, that we're setting up systems, and we're getting militant about sticking to these financial control systems this coming year. And also, I'll just amplify what I talked about last year, is about cash is king. We are going to have a much stronger, both me personally and my company, a much deeper cash reserve than I've ever had in the past. During the past year, I had to close out retirement accounts and those types of things just to pay the bills, just to keep people employed, those types of things. And I don't want to ever have to do that again. So 2022 is going to be a big rebuilding year on the financial side for us. But I encourage people, keep cash on hand for both your business. Prior to the pandemic, the average business in the U.S. had, I think it was 28 or 29 days of free cash flow. And what did we all learn from that?
Wasn't enough.
It's not enough, right? And so I'm encouraging people to have at least 90 days. My goal, I'll be honest with you, is to have 9 months of free cash flow on hand moving forward. So my goal is that by June of 2022.
That is so smart. I was just talking to a client today who has a food truck.
Yeah.
And she survived. She has survived. But what's getting her now is the costs of meat, the costs of cooking oil, all of that stuff. That's just hammering restaurants right now. Inflation. And so you never know when this kind of stuff is going to happen. I remember several years ago, Southwest Airlines, when airplane flight pricing went really high, but Southwest Airlines was able to keep their pricing low because they had a long-term contract, because they were able to do that secure pricing because they had cash. So there's so many reasons to keep that cash and to be able to use it.
Yeah, that's good. So we move to professional.
Yeah, let's do one more, and then we will go into a part 2, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. You are a quitter. Okay, let's do professional, Dave.
Professional.
What have you learned in your professional life in 2021, and what are you going to do in 2022?
Well, professional, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is, Larry, we were talking about, when we were talking about goal setting before, one of the things that we're going to be doing is coming up with some new products. One of the things that we're going to be working on is a goal setting and achieving process. We're going to do that. But coming out what we did with the HireMyVA white glove service last year, here's one of the things that I learned from a professional perspective that it's important for us to do is, if at all possible, make yourself a beta user of your own project.
Oh, so important. Yeah.
Product of your own service, if at all possible. Because one of the things that we did is we did it the right way. We came up with a service, we defined it, and we took a few clients through it as beta users, gave them a great deal. They're all happy. Everything was awesome. And then I'm like, well, I need to hire somebody for social media. So I went through the process as a white glove client myself and acted like a white glove client. I didn't give them hints and all that stuff, the team. And we found several areas that really needed to be improved on. Good areas. It wasn't to where, I would look at it as our service was producing like a 9 out of 10 in rating. Now I think it's more of a 10 out of 10. And we're continuing to learn as we get new clients and we make improvements. But that was just an eye opener for me to experience it firsthand from a client's perspective. Good. One of the things related to that I learned is a lot of times we might have ourselves walk through it first, but your new product or service can be so raw that you can't put the great finishing golden touches on it unless maybe you go through it a little bit later. That kind of makes sense.
Good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we've learned a lot by putting ourselves through our beta programs, haven't we? We thought we were done.
Yeah.
We went through it. Oh, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But then when you actually do the beta, it's like, oh, this is not what I meant, right? And we can be so much better than that. I'm really glad. Thanks for sharing that one, Dave.
Yeah.
For me, there's a lot in this area. I'm going to try to, I'll share some of my stuff, but also try to keep it general enough that it helps everybody. I think when we do these reflections, Dave, it's oftentimes just a TFTR. Thanks for the reminder,
Right.
on stuff. And so this is one of those TFTRs for me. We have to stand out from the competition. We really do. And so this is a time to reflect, okay, how did I do this past year from standing out from the competition? Sometimes it might start from the name of your entity or the branding of from your business. But I think that every business ought to have at least one major differentiator from your competition.
Yes.
Okay. And so you can't know what that is unless you do a competitive set analysis. Well, gosh, Larry, what's a competitive set analysis? So, well, if you were in the Victory coaching program or the HireMyVA thing, you might know that. But so do a competitive set analysis to find out or to help you identify what is your one significant or major differentiator. A couple other things, Dave, is that a big reminder for me is to put your team first. Put your team first, particularly during moments of crisis. If you don't have your team buckled down and on the same page as you, and you're not all singing from the same song sheet, as they say, and they are not, I don't know, I don't want to use the word loyal because that sounds wrong, but if they're not supportive of your efforts, then your clients aren't going to matter.
Yeah.
But I would say then strive to put your clients as a priority. Put your team first, make your clients a priority. Okay. And again, for those who are just joining us, who haven't been on what the hell is a client? Why aren't you calling them customers? Our philosophy is that customers are transactional, clients are relational. And given the acquisition cost of a new client, why not get a client and keep them rather than spending that money over and over and over again to get a new customer. And so we're putting a lot more emphasis on that in 2022. And we're getting back to the slow to hire, quick to fire approach in 2022. What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to make sure that we really are bringing people on board who share our core values, who believe in the direction we're going, who love what they do. And then if we find out pretty quickly that they're not who we thought they were, then we're going to coach them up or we're going to coach them out.
And do it quickly.
And not let it linger, because everybody notices it. And if it happens to be a low performer, that frustrates the hell out of high performers. And everyone wants to be on a winning team.
Yeah.
Right. And the better your team members are, it brings everyone's performance up. Right.
Yeah. Let me tailgate on a couple of those things. So on the competitive set analysis, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I realized going through the Victory program was so many people think it's a one and done. You do your analysis and it's a one and done and we're done and maybe 5 years to revisit it. No, you need to do it every year, every single year.
At least.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's a good, I don't know, probably rhythm, like you said, at least that's a decent rhythm, which
let me chime in here for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Before you switch to the next one, let me jump in. But go ahead. I was just going to say, for us, we start doing it, like our budgeting season starts mid-August. That's when we do it. Okay. August and September, because if you looked at your competitive set analysis and you've not looked at it in 5 years, your competitors may have provided new services.
That's right.
They may have pivoted. Their pricing may have switched completely. They may have been purchased by someone else, right? Who the heck knows? But if you do it every year, then you can look on that competitive set analysis and say, well, gosh, what we thought was a competitive advantage, what we thought was the major differentiator last year, well, everyone saw how successful it was for us, and now they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
All kinds of things could change in a year. A year's a long time.
Yeah. So you're right. Then it's time to innovate.
Just do it during the budgeting season, and it will be part of what you do. You'll remember it.
And that also led me to believe you, to think about you'd already talked about the victory program and where we took people through vision and tell and all that. That really needs to be done. That victory program. People need to go through that really once a year.
Yeah.
I have an idea for you. I just came up with, I'm not going to share it, but we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
You write it down. The other thing that I realized from a professional perspective is, I pride myself on doing systems and operating procedures and stuff like that. Well, we brought, like I mentioned, a social media manager in, but we've had Daff and Brian on the team for so long. We kind of knew we knew a cadence with each other and everything, where everything was. And it's like this new person came on, Jules, and she's like, well, where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have so much stuff documented. We got very, very lazy. And so that's related to one of my my BHAGs coming up, Big Hair Audacious Goals coming up in 2022 for my business. Yeah. So I realized that. So that's a good lesson, is professionally bringing in somebody new to your team will it will help identify areas that you really need to improve on. It will.
Yeah, that's so good, Dave. And one way to do this is just to have a Google Drive folder on your standard operating procedures. Basically, everything you do in your business should be documented in a folder somewhere. Everything from, if you got a physical facility, what happens when the first person who drives up to that curb in front of your store, that, a half hour before you open, they step out of the car, then what?
Yeah.
How do you unlock the door? How do you turn off the alarm? How do you scan the parking lot? How do you put the cash drawer into your point of sale system? All of it needs to be documented.
And
right?
It's
because what happens if, Dave, you have to go in the hospital?
I know.
And the business must go on. And this is where the real value comes from a business. It's the systems that generate the revenue. All right. Because the example I always use is, what if someone were to walk up to you and offer you some sick number to buy your business, but the caveat was, when we close this deal, you are out of the business, and the business must function without you.
Ooh.
Right. How does that happen? Can it happen?
It can.
Yeah. So that's kind of the threshold we need to meet.
Yeah, and we do a lot about, in fact, we have a whole section when we teach in the Victory course about SOPs and how to do them. And, folks, probably our best advice on that is just to get started. The easiest thing to do is get some kind of a screen recorder, Vimeo, Loom, whatever is out there. Start recording what you are doing on your screen. Yeah. Use your iPhone if you need to, or your Android phone. Start recording stuff. Okay, well, we've gone through the physical, financial, and professional 3 of the 8. And I think we need to go through the other 5 in the next one. What do you think, Larry?
That sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Shall we bring this one to a close?
Let's bring it to a close. Don't forget to stick around for part 2.
Yeah. And then also go to some of the lessons that we learned in 2020. Go listen to that previous podcast. You can just search for it. You'll find it. I wish I could remember what episode it was. Darn it. But that's okay. All right. Well, thank you, folks, for joining us today. And remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're here to help you with our course and community. And what we talked about real briefly is our white glove service, where we find a rock star VA for you. You heard I used it myself. Awesome. So it's going to be awesome for you. The 3 things we'd love for you to do, and we'd really, really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so, either on your iPhone or Android phone. On YouTube, hit that subscribe button and click on the little bell next to it to get reminders. Number 2, give us a rating. Leave a comment below this video, any comment, because it'll help us get the word out. Yeah. And then number 3, go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our white glove service. Because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry, we're helping more and more folks, bringing more in our community. We're excited about it, and we want to help you guys too. So remember, go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
That's right, my friends. Hey, do the world a favor. Do yourself a favor. Go do something significant today. But before you do that, God bless you, God keep you, and God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.